You know, once in a while, television will provide a show that really just hits you in the feels in ways you don't expect. Young Sheldon really got to me in these final 4 episodes. This show always had some great emotional moments with perfect drama, plus the comedy never missed, and I could go on with the things this show did so well. I just can't believe I had to say goodbye to young Sheldon. It doesn't even feel real. It went by so fast, like a blink of an eye, and I am left with this feeling of wanting more. It did end on a high note and at the perfect time too, but man, these final few episodes really are gonna stick with me for a while. In some ways, I kind of related to these final episodes, which is why these episodes affected me so much and has gotten me so choked up. I didn't lose my father, but I have lost family who I loved very much, and these final few episodes were really relatable to me in the way you don't know this will be the last time you are with or talking to a loved one, and then you are left with this regret in the way things ended. Sheldon replaying the last time he ever saw his dad was probably the thing that affected me the most. I did the exact same thing as Sheldon did, where I replayed final moments over and over again, just wishing things were different. Unfortunately, life is unpredictable. Every day you are with the loved one could be the last time with that person. It's just the reality we live in. One moment someone is here, and then unexpectedly they're just gone without a proper goodbye. Life unfortunately isn't like a movie or a TV show in the way people get a proper and satisfying conclusion. Sometimes you get that proper goodbye, and then other times things just end out of nowhere. I feel like young Sheldon really left a strong message with viewers. You know, like, call up your family members, call up the ones you love, and tell them how much you love them and appreciate them, because you never know when they're gonna be gone. So always say goodbye and I love you, and appreciate them while they are still around. I unfortunately had to learn that lesson the hard way, and I live with a lot of regret by doing so. And I'm sure a lot of people had to learn that lesson the hard way as well. So, this all affected me on a personal level, but let's be honest. Fans of this show love George as a character, and yes, we knew this was coming at some point, but it didn't make his death any less sad. The death of George was gut-wrenching, and the way it affected his family was really emotional. George is a great character, and he's definitely a top 5 TV dad of all time, so it's no surprise his death was going to be really sad. Then they showed the funeral for George. It all felt so real, and I really appreciate how the young Sheldon writers made the funeral feel authentic, and they put a lot of heart into the funeral of George, and they even added light comedy moments when it was appropriate. Shout out to the actors too, because this show really struggled with its cast, and the chemistry they all have together really was something special. They made these scenes work, and if the cast was not as talented as they were, a lot of these scenes would just have fallen flat. Then there was the aftermath, the way they show everyone grieving in different ways and still grieving after the funeral. It was all so realistic, showing the different ways one grieves while dealing with loss, and there's no correct way to deal with grief, which young Sheldon shows really well. There's also no proper closure, and characters are left more broken than they ever were before. One of Meemaw's last scenes is her breaking down to her grandchildren that their mom is not okay, and they need to do this baptism for her. And guess how it ended? With Missy storming out during the baptism, not doing it for her mom, and she had some serious anger within her, and Sheldon's mom was left in a not okay state, along with Missy. I am not sure if young Sheldon purposely left things open-ended without a proper conclusion so they could tie things up in the sequel show, Georgie and Mandy, but the show ends on a not so hopeful note for Sheldon's family, and unfortunately that's kind of realistic to how life is sometimes. I wouldn't be surprised if there's no closure in the sequel show, because in real life a lot of the time there is just no closure. In the face of tragedy, life can go down in many different ways, and sometimes life just turns to crap, and it takes years before things become better again. Sometimes it never becomes better at all, but we do know in the Big Bang Theory it looks like everyone ends up okay in the end. I do hope we get that closure in the sequel show, because in some ways this just felt like an ending for Sheldon and not his family, which makes sense because this show is called Young Sheldon. But this show went beyond just Sheldon. It really focused on his family equally as much as Sheldon. Sometimes they focused on Sheldon's family even more than the main character himself. And there's a reason why Georgie and Mandy are getting a spin-off show, because they were the most popular characters on Young Sheldon. I don't know if you guys are on TikTok, but there's a ton of Young Sheldon TikToks out there with millions and millions of views. And it's all about Mandy and Georgie. Sometimes it's about other stuff on the show too, but the majority of TikToks I see when it comes to young Sheldon, it's about Georgie and Mandy. We do kind of know what happens to his family on The Big Bang Theory. Like I said, like Missy will go on to have a family, but she has some really bad rebellious years after her dad died, from what we know from The Big Bang Theory. We also know Georgie will get married multiple times, and I'm guessing he might get married multiple times to the same woman. Maybe Mandy will be his wife on and off again, but I'm sure we'll get Georgie completely fleshed out in the sequel series. We also know Mary will continue to be super religious, and eventually she'll be able to move on. And we just know Mima is alive. And that's it. We don't know anything else about Mima in The Big Bang Theory, and we don't even know if Dale is still alive in The Big Bang Theory because he was just never mentioned. So we don't know what's going to happen there unless they mention it on the Georgie and Mandy sequel series. But yeah, now that Young Sheldon is over, I feel like there's going to be something missing for a long time. I hope the Georgie and Mandy show will fill that void that's going to be missing for me. But who knows the next time we will get a comedy that's also a drama like Young Sheldon, that has really brilliant writers, and they don't just want to tell a comedy, they want to tell a story. They set things up all the way back in the first season and have it be paid off in a later season. There's also all those seeds that they planted with Sheldon's dad and the way he spends time with his children. They even did the flashbacks in the finale with all those great moments with Sheldon's dad and how he was there for his daughter and his sons. And all those moments when Sheldon's dad was just telling he was proud of him, and all those times he helped his daughter feel better from all of her hardships, and how George was with Georgie, teaching him to become the man that he will later become. I also love how every character, even the guest appearance characters, has some sort of character arc or story to them, and they always try to flesh them out over multiple seasons. That's really rare for shows that are comedies to do, and have writers that care that much. For me, this is what I want from more comedies. I love when a show can make you feel happy because it's so freaking hilarious, while providing characters that make you care about them and the arcs that they go on, giving great storylines per season, a perfect cast that could be funny when it's time to be, but also bring a range of different emotions when it's called upon to do so, and drama that feels so real, that provides you moments where you want to cry and reflect on life, like these final episodes did for me. Young Sheldon really followed through with the saying that art imitates life, and that's true in more ways than just the finale. Seeing the struggle of the Coopers, whether it was financially, dealing with a midlife crisis, growing up and dealing with the struggles of doing so, unplanned pregnancies, questioning religion, and even guest characters get some real depth to them too, like with Veronica and her abusive household, Paige and her screwed up family that broke her mentally, which by the way I do hope we get a Paige spinoff. Then there's Mandy, who has issues of her own, and she has to deal with the issue of life not going as planned, but making the best with the situation you have been given. There is so much that happens in this show, so many storylines and so many characters, and they are somehow to make it all work, and they are able to make it in a way that's relatable, even though the main character is some sort of super genius, and somehow it all just really works. Sometimes you forget how smart Sheldon is, and it's still relatable. This is like a middle class family that goes through a lot of ups and downs and struggles in so many different ways, along with the incredible reoccurring characters that come onto the show. Young Sheldon will go down as one of my all-time favorite shows. I never thought the prequel to my second favorite show of all time would be almost as good, if not better, in so many ways than the original show. When Young Sheldon was first announced, at best, I thought the show was going to be just fun. And I kind of thought they were going to try to milk as much as they can from the Big Bang Theory brand. But oh boy, I was wrong. This show gave me so much laughter and tears and memories that I will always cherish forever. Young Sheldon. Television won't be the same without you, and the legacy you left behind is one that many will resonate with now and for years to come.